I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum. Ladies, gentlemen, and variations thereupon, get to the chopper! Because this is modern escapism. Hello and welcome to Modern Escapism. My name is Stig and I will be your host for this week. Joining me, you've heard of the muscles from Brussels. Well, this is the normal guy from the next town over. It's Biggie.
Diplomatic immunity. Hello.
No, if Modern Escapism was stranded fighting an alien horde, she'd 100% be the only survivor, as the rest of us men would do something stupid and all die painfully. It's Candy.
And I'd take my cat with me.
Yes, you would. You want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts. Well, I couldn't think of anyone better than to get nuts with than our special guest tonight, long-time listener, soon-to-be podcaster with Smash That Glass. It's the queen of feedback, the tampon lady herself, SuperNattyCat.
Yay!
I have a tampon in special.
It's a lucky one.
Oodles and Gadget are away this week as the CIA have got them pushing too many pencils. Welcome, Natty. Hello. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having
Short
me.
notice as well.
Yeah. I was literally like face deep in Danish pastries when Candy gave me the old heads up that I was going to get cold. So I was like, so I
You don't want to
shoved
know what
that
I was
down,
face
and
deep
here
in.
I am.
I can think of worse ways to go out.
Death by Danish.
See, that's what's going to happen now. You're part of the team and you start and smash that glass whenever we need to pull you in. We're going to pull you in.
Oh, it's fun.
I didn't tell her that.
Yeah, I didn't sign a waiver.
Oh, Biggie, get on that, will you? HR, come on.
We'll take it off call.
Right. Before we get into the show, please consider becoming one of our Patreons. From as little as £1 a month, you can support the show, or for £5 or £7.50 a month, you'll get access to bonus content and a plethora of extra material. Just head to patreon.com/Modern Escapism or modernescapism.co.uk to see everything that we do. Okay, Biggie, bring me that breaking news.
No. All right.
You may already know, but he doesn't, because it's time for Biggie's Breaking News.
First up, we got Disco Elysium's lead game designer, Robert Kurwitz, has now filed a lawsuit against developer Zaum. Earlier this month, a number of the key members of the development team had confirmed they're no longer working at the studio. It's quoted as saying, the reason for dissolving the cultural organisation is that it no longer represents the ethos it was founded on, wrote founding member Martin Luiga. People and ideas are meant to be eternal. Organisations may be temporary. He then later alleged that some of the team members were fired on false premises. Weird.
This sucks.
Yeah.
I absolutely love Disco Elysium, and I was really looking forward to either seeing a follow-up to, like, a sequel to that game involving those characters, or just a general follow-up to see what that studio and that creative team were going to do. But now, whatever Disco Elysium follow-up we get, it's just going to be... it might be as good, but I don't see it.
I mean,
Doesn't bode well,
it's
does
not
it?
like there aren't more talented people out there, but it's the kind of glue that... It was probably the magical ingredients, wasn't it? Like that specific set of people.
Yeah.
But I wonder if the people that left are now going to kind of form some kind of team together and do something else. But it's such a shame. It's obviously like some kind of new management team have come in and just shaken it up, not to their advantage, possibly.
Yeah, I hope so, because they amazing game with Disco Elysium. So I'd like to see what they do like in the future. But yeah, it's just a shame that it won't be them working on any Disco follow-up if there is one.
Big poo.
CD Projekt Red has surprised everybody by announcing that there's going to be a Witcher 1 remake, and it's built from the ground up with Unreal Engine 5. Now, I was talking to a mate of mine the other night, and he said he recently had played The Witcher on the PC after buying it cheap in a sale somewhere, and he said it's pretty gash at this point. It's not aged well. So
No, I've heard it's absolutely terrible. I got it free when I got Cyberpunk.
Oh, did you?
I never bothered touching it. Yeah, I'd never touched it though because it just looks crap anyway. I've never played The Witcher 3 yet, so that's still on my to-do list. So I'm quite happy to just wait for this remake.
I think this is one of the cases where a remake is actually due, isn't it? Because I think it was up until then they'd only made mobile games, and so they were actually CD Projekt Red were translating games for people into Polish, as far as I know. So this was their first venture into actually like doing games. So actually, if you look at it, it doesn't graphically, it doesn't look too bad. It looks aged, but for the time, it's not too bad. I think the trouble with it is the combat and everything. It ended up being more of a sort of rhythm game. So it was a case of kind of clicking on the characters at the right time to combat, and we can see what they actually are capable of. So it's fully I fully endorse them actually going back and doing a remake because it's certainly needed. Not like some other games that needed remaking.
That's true. Do you think they'll keep the sexy conquest cards in?
Oh, I hope so.
you just know you just know that once they announce that we aren't putting them in the game anymore, there's just going to be a subsection of Twitter that's just going to be
literally unplayable.
Yeah. I will not play this game.
I think they're doing all their
sexual conquests.
They're doing all their games in Unreal 5 now, aren't they? Or Unreal Engine.
Let's hope so.
I think I heard that. I think they are. Because it was Red Engine before, wasn't it? Which is a pretty good engine, so I'm surprised. But maybe it's just having a pre-packaged engine ready to go is just easier. Because they've got, 5-6 projects on the go now that they're actively working on. So, yeah, they're just...
As well as still carrying on with Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
That's a forever conquest,
allegedly
thing they're working on.
Next up, Striking Distance and publisher Crafton have announced the Japanese version of up-and-coming space horror The Callisto Protocol has been cancelled in Japan. So this is due to the game's violent content, which means it's unable to secure an age rating with the CERO, Japanese equivalent of PEGI in Europe, and ESRB in North America. Developers stated those who pre-ordered this version of the game will receive a full refund for their purchase.
Wow.
Which is weird, because Japan are nuts. Why?
Yeah.
They've got some proper violent games.
Yeah, the stuff that they put out, whether it's in manga, anime, you name it, it's just weird that this has happened. But
yeah, I was going to say that the culture that gave us like real fucked up manga,
Legend of the Overfiend,
and they're responsible for survival horror games. Seeing all that kind of stuff, but yet they can't rate this. Is a bit weird.
Game
it
looks
does
good,
look horrific, though, doesn't it? To be fair, from all the trailers, it looks really bad. I'm so excited for it.
Me too.
Yeah.
I've not watched any of the trailers because it's one of those ones where I just want to everyone's buzzing about it. So I'm like, right, I'm going off everyone else's buzz here. So I'm going off that, and I'm hoping that that's enough to make me like it.
Yeah,
but a few websites.
So bad at it.
Yeah, a few websites have already had hands on with it as well and saying it's good.
Yeah, of course it's going to be good.
When's that out again?
December the
next month,
11th.
Yeah,
because I think God of War is the 9th of November, and I think it's December the 11th. I think
it's going to be a busy Christmas.
I might play that and then get God of War for Christmas. Might ask Santa to get me God of War for Christmas.
And then Dead Space in January.
Although God of War's more of a Christmassy game, though, isn't it? Because it's Ragnarok. Nice snowy environment.
I could probably play that around my kids more than the Callisto project as well.
I mean, barely. That's got some pretty brutal kills in it as well. But yeah, I mean, it's not. There's going to be ways around it for a Japanese audience that want to play it. There's ways around it, isn't there? It's not region locked. It's just that they would have to do the old IP blocker or something. But they'll get their hands on it. It's just a shame that it's not going to be in Japanese.
Yeah. It's very odd. Honestly, I can't understand why that, unless there's some kind of politicking going on. I don't know.
When I first saw the headline, it said it'd been cancelled. I was like, no! Didn't realise what it was.
Yeah, same.
Well, that's when you said cancelled, then I was like, what?
Cancelled. In Japan.
Next up, I'm not letting you say next. New Star Wars in the works. Justin Britt Gibson is penning the script with Lindelof, with the film potentially bringing back some characters from the 2010 films. Sources say the movie project is intended as a standalone, but in success could lead to more movies. The plan goes against the grain of earlier Lucasfilm development process, which saw the company try to come up with new trilogies. Now the studio seems to be focused on standalones.
See, if this follows like
It's that small galaxy
the Rise
again,
of
isn't it?
Skywalker. Yeah, but if this follows the Rise of Skywalker and is meant to carry on their story, I'd rather they clearly aren't just going to do a standalone. This will be a trilogy or something. I'd rather them just set it all out, because doing each film one after another without an actual end goal, look how that turned out for the last three. It's an absolute mess. They will end up just finishing this film with a cliffhanger and then go, right, now what do we do, without any idea of where it's going, especially if it's bringing Rey back. I know that John Boyega will be back. He's already said he's done with it.
Yeah.
So
Not surprised.
I just find it really difficult to get excited about any more Skywalker saga stuff. Like they said it was going to be the end of the Skywalker saga, and there's an entire universe. And we said it before, it doesn't have to focus around this one or two, families. Just do something else. I don't want more direct sequels.
well, it could have been the end of the Skywalker if they hadn't have put that last line in Rise of Skywalker.
And I hated that as well. Take that name that you've got and own it. Change people's perceptions of that name.
Yeah, it was. I hated that film so much.
What's your name? Ray Binks.
Ray Binks. Mr. Ray Ray.
Yeah, I quite like some of the standalone stuff they're doing. I've liked some of the TV stuff. Just I'm not really have much confidence in the mainline Star Wars.
Yeah, they're too scared to step away from Skywalker in a way, aren't they? It's
Well, they tried
still
doing
got
that,
to
but
have a
that's what-
little link somewhere.
It's literally what The Last Jedi is about.
Can't they just do
It's
more like
literally what
Rogue
it's
One?
about.
That was amazing.
It was.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've got Andor, haven't you? That's the Rogue One one.
Yeah, I haven't seen that
Yeah,
yet.
I haven't
prequel
seen
to
that
Rogue
yet.
One, innit? There's other stuff coming out, because there's meant to be a Taika Waititi Star Wars film coming. There's meant to be a Rian Johnson. Rian Johnson is still down for doing a Star Wars trilogy, regardless of The Last Jedi backlash. It's still kind of floating around. It hasn't officially been cancelled yet.
Yeah.
And also, Patty Jenkins is meant to be doing one as well. There's not much details of when these are coming out, though.
It'll happen because Disney will force it upon us.
Yeah,
Yeah, of course they will.
the big mouse.
They didn't pay all that money for Star Wars just to shelve it anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Make you eat fucking Star Wars until you are sick of it.
Star Wars and Marvel,
Yeah.
shovel it all in.
Yep.
Nom 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 nom.
Next up, James Gunn and Peter Safran have been named as co-chairman and CEOs of DC Studios because they want to be Marvel.
They do, but this is a step in the right
It
direction.
is.
I think this is
I
kind of
think-
exciting, and I think it's probably linked with some of the other news stories we've got coming up as well, one or two. But
Yeah.
I mean, they certainly got a space to step in because Marvel's kind of gone a bit off the boil recently. So now would be the perfect opportunity if they're going to get in there and do something new.
Yeah, and James Gunn as well obviously has experience with the Marvel machine, so he knows how it kind of works. He's produced some good Marvel films. He's done one of the best DCEU films, and the Peacemaker spin-off TV show was brilliant.
Yeah.
So, and having a proper filmmaker with ideas and a storyteller as head of it all is probably better than just having a corporate suit,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is what they've had before, where they've just gone, give me a Superman film. It didn't work very well. Give me another Superman film. This time put Batman in it. It's like, and I just think getting away from Zack Snyder is probably a good thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Just in terms of storytelling, I just think, like I said before, visually I think he looks great, but storytelling it's an absolute muddled mess. So I think James Gunn's probably a very good person to bring in to kind of steady that ship and do with it. It should be a Marvel thing. They should be able to do that with all these characters and these worlds, because it's there. It's just that there's no real
They just haven't.
cohesiveness.
Yeah.
It's just they just throw them together, and then like the difference between Wonder Woman in her own film and Wonder Woman in Batman vs Superman, it's like they're like different characters.
Yeah.
Well, and 1984 as well, which we don't speak of.
Yeah.
We don't talk about.
No. But yeah, the magic ingredients again, they're not quite meshing together yet. They haven't quite found it. But they're looking for their Kevin Feige, I think.
Do you think there'll
And,
be a moment where DC will like overtake Marvel in popularity, like when the DC films become the Marvel and Marvel become the DC?
Do you know what? It wouldn't be. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. Not necessarily because DC become that much better, but again, people are just starting to get a bit of Marvel burnout, I think. So, the two things with maybe there's just a bit more excitement in DCU sparking.
There's definitely excitement with what's coming up now.
Yeah.
And I bet you there's going to be a Chris Pratt reboot as Batman if James Gunn's involved.
I set Biggie up for a great segue,
I know.
then, and he just completely missed it. I bet there's going to be excitement with what's coming up next.
Oh, let's have a look. It's official. The Witcher is returning for season 4. And somebody else is going to be Geralt.
No.
No.
Yes.
You still missed it.
No.
It's Liam Hemsworth because
No.
Henry Cavill is a bit busy, apparently, doing other stuff.
That was meant to be your segue
I know.
story.
I got it.
I could not
Yeah,
hate
let's
this more.
touch on The Witcher first. I just don't see the point. I don't understand it. I don't really like how Cavill steps in away from it. He said he was in it for the full 7 series. Whether it's because, it's probably because of Superman. Let's be realistic.
Well, I think it's
Scheduling conflicts.
yeah, it's partly that for sure. And I think with James Gunn on board, maybe there's been some new contracts, or maybe he's got a bit more excitement for the DCU going forward. But at the same time, do you remember there was a hoo-ha last week about it came out that the writers they didn't like the Witcher games and the Witcher books. So I wonder if there's a conflict of interest, like Henry Cavill being a Witcher fan. He's like, well, I want to keep it, like true to the books, and then the writers want to go in a different direction. So maybe there's a little bit of that going on as well.
I think there might be, because I'm sure he had to fight a little bit to get certain stuff in season 2.
He did.
Or season 3.
Yeah, he pretty much rewrote some of the scenes as well, I think. There was one of the scenes where one of the roaches died. I think he basically had to rewrite it the way he saw fit.
Yeah.
And everyone's
So, yeah, I
tearing
think it's a little bit
into
of that too.
the announcement of Liam Hemsworth, aren't they? They're not happy.
I think they would have torn into anyone, whoever
I think
it
so,
was.
yeah.
I've not got anything against Liam Hemsworth. He's fine. He's certainly got the build for it and everything. It's just it's not Henry Cavill. And no one
Henry
likes
Cavill's
the
one of us.
announcement of Henry Cavill either. When it was first announced that he was going to be The Witcher, everyone's like, no, doesn't suit it. But we've grown to love him. And we know that he's a
Yeah.
fan as well.
Yeah.
I don't understand why they just didn't say Geralt's story's finished. We're going to follow a new Witcher. Or, what's the girl's name?
Jennifer.
No, the other one that's training up.
Ciri,
that's it, sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, you could have just followed Ciri instead. She could have been the main Witcher character.
Well, potentially that
we
could still
follow.
happen,
Yeah.
though.
Mm.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
not to say that Geralt as the Witcher is going to be the main character. He might kind of pass the torch on to Ciri.
Yeah.
No, not having a lead woman in the role. No!
I just think you would have been better off just ending Geralt's story, because I think more people would be happier with that than recasting. Again, it's not Liam Hemsworth's fault, and I kind of feel sorry for him because he's going to get backlash and get
Yeah.
compared all the time. But, if you've watched Vikings, it's very easy to move on from your main character that
Yeah.
everyone was invested in.
Yeah.
By just pushing the story elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe they turn the Witcher
can be
into
done.
like a
It can be
Time
done.
Lord, some weird transition between the character leaving, the new one coming in.
I think it's going to be some kind of big old facial injury.
Homer Simpson
Right,
when he gets sexy.
At the end of season 3, he's going to get a knife to the face. He's going to get a knife.
Yeah,
to the
they're going
face.
to unwrap the bandages
Yeah,
and reveal it's
exactly.
Liam Hemsworth.
It's like the Joker in that Batman film just starts laughing in the mirror.
Oh, man. It'd be hilarious if they did that. It's either that or they might actually just have someone hit him with a spell. Some kind of spell that changes him. Oh,
Magical face changing spell.
yeah, I don't know.
You're going to be
It's just
less
a bit-
handsome now. Try and live with that.
You're going to be the uglier Hemsworth. No!
Yeah, a bit of a weird one, but obviously it's because he's gone back to be Superman. That's the other big news regarding him this week. I think he's fine. I think he looks the part, and he's already said he wants to play a more joyous and happy Superman. So, given the right kind of writer director, I think he can pull it off. It's a shame that it's been spoilt massively.
Well, maybe there
but
will be a kind of reboot of sorts as well. It's been
Yeah.
It's been long enough.
It's going to be a soft reboot,
Yeah.
basically, and this time he won't be smashing through buildings and killing thousands of people.
It's a shame.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Like I say, with him back and James Gunn in as the head, see where it goes. Quite happy to see where it goes.
Well, we know something that isn't going. It's George R.R. Martin. He's not going away anywhere soon. He's apparently 3/4 done writing for The Winds of Winter, which Stiggy does not believe. And apparently he's
Is
been
he fuck?
too busy writing that book to play Elden Ring, which he was heavily involved in crafting the lore and the backstory.
He's too busy in everything other than the one thing that people want him to do.
He's busy doing his garden.
Playing all his hats.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. He is furiously rewriting that book story because of how it ended in the TV show.
Yeah, let's hope so.
I don't think he's going to get it finished.
You think
Oh,
he's going to
surely.
die first, you mean?
Yeah.
God.
Well, how old is he now?
I'm going to guess 72.
He's 74 years old.
Oh, good call.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Doesn't look in the best of shape, and it's taken him now. When did the last book come out? 2013, I think it was. No, 2011. A Dance with Dragons came out. So we're on to 11 years since that book came out. If he gets his book finished in the next 2 years, and then it takes him another 10 to 15 years to write the next one.
George R.I.P. Martin.
Yep.
That is the pod title there.
Yeah, unless he's managed to get both of them written together, so they're just going to come out in quick succession.
Maybe he could
I
do the old
honestly don't see it.
GCSE trick. You know, when you say that it was all a dream when you run out of time. At the end, you got to listen, Elysian. You got all you write adjectives and stuff, and you go, oh, fuck, I got 5 minutes left. So you write, it was all a dream. Pen down.
Or he leaves a few blank spaces at the end and go, you decide who the King of Green is.
The future is in your hands. Oh, fuck off.
Or it's one of those books where you go, you went round the corner, you died. Oh, no, go back a few paces.
That's it. He's making a choose your own adventure and
Yeah,
he gets
yeah.
to sit on the Iron Throne.
Well, he can't be
they're
accused
not-
of bad writing then, because you're the one that's in charge.
Exactly. No one
Yeah.
can complain then because you have all the options.
Okay, well, I hate to do this, but sadly I have to end it on a bit of a dour point. I was quite sad to hear this news that happened yesterday, I believe. But Low Raw founder and lead singer Ryan Carazia, known for his large contribution, of course, to the Death Stranding soundtrack, passed away at the age of 40. and I've been listening to his music all day today.
Yeah, I love Low Roar. It's just so. Actually, I was going to go see them, and they recently cancelled their show, so I assume that's probably due to illness.
Yeah, he's had a short-term illness, and I think he got pneumonia. I think as a complication.
I think they said that, but I mean, regardless, it's just no age at all, is it? And what Kojima came out and said that there would basically be no Death Stranding if it wasn't for Low Roar. I fully believe that because it really does set the tone of the game. And I'm sure like Kojima was listening to Low Roar as he was kind of writing the game, because you can tell the landscape goes with the music perfectly. I think there was something like 18 Low Roar songs used in the game, and then a handful of Silent Poet ones, and then sort of several others scattered around. So Low Roar really was the sort of lion's share.
Is it the first song you hear when you're going down as a Low Roar track?
I think when you're going down to is it Port Knot City before you go over the lake? I think it's actually Silent Poets, but I could be wrong. But yeah, that particular moment in the game is just gives you shivers. Like I can't think of any. I definitely have
heard some Low Roar tracks from what I've got up to, and it really just works so well.
Yeah. They're still releasing. He was working on an album which I think was pretty much finished, and they're still going to release that.
Right.
So
yeah,
it'd be nice to listen to posthumously, although be a bit sad. But he leaves us with a couple of albums of just incredible music. So
yeah, agreed.
At least there's that.
Yeah, very sad.
That's it, dude.
Great, thank you very much. On to the Nexus. So we talk about what we've been up to this week. Biggie, why don't you start us off this week?
Okay, well, I've got stuff to talk about. Woo!
Yay!
Woo! Yay. We've actually got things to talk about this week. Yay!
So, although regrettably, the time I did find was to watch Terrifier 1 and 2, to get myself caught up with what seems to be a bit of a hit at the moment. But yeah, two very similar but very different movies, and I think Stig spoke about it in Discord as well, that the first movie is kind of just shy of 90 minutes, I think it is, of nonsensical plot really, but Art the Clown, which is the main character, just goes on this killing binge, taking out characters that you meet briefly in the movie, just decides to take them all out for no apparent reason. Nothing's explained, but it's all very well done, but very, very gory. One of the first big kills in the Terrifier, he saws a woman in half who's upside down and starts with her noo-noo. It's just, it's
not a noo-noo.
Yeah.
Like vertically.
Yep.
Oh.
And it's
the deaths in these are pretty horrific.
All done by the director as well. So he wrote the movie, he's directed it, and did the special effects as well. I've forgotten his name, sorry. I have to find it out. But yeah, so then it obviously seemed to be a big hit with gore fans. Then he came up with a sequel, and it's like it's like an extra hour long. And
2.5 hours nearly.
Yeah, it's just, again, incredible special effects, gory as hell. The plot is just pointless because although it links certain things in the movie, there's a lot of stuff that happens that isn't explained for reasons. And yeah,
so
the
it's
kills
just a collage
again.
of death scenes, basically.
Pretty much. And they are very clever. They're very smartly done. It's torture porn, it's gore, like, Hostel, Saw, that kind of really over-the-top stuff. It's not easy to watch in places. Apparently people were leaving the cinemas around the States and stuff, like vomiting and all this kind of thing. An ambulance was called to one. But yeah, it is what it is. The plot just makes no sense, but the gore is completely over the top, and that's what a lot of people like. But I do like the guy that plays the clown. I should have made a note of his name, but he's
I do kind of like Art the Clown.
Clever. He's quite funny, and there's a certain scene where he goes to shoot somebody, he's run out of bullets, and he just does this kind of sort of shake, like disappointed that his gun's run out of bullets, and he kind of sort of shrugs, and all this kind of mime stuff is really funny. When things don't quite go to plan, but yeah, very cleverly done. But yeah, I'm not a massive fan of these movies, but I appreciate what they were trying to do.
There's always room for a new iconic like horror villain as well, though, isn't there? There's certainly like since the 80s we've had a few, we've distinctly lacked a few good ones.
I think this could be it. didn't like the films very much. He he's got a great look, and he's a silent clown. He's a mime. He never ever makes any noise.
Not at all.
Ever. Doesn't even when he's running or getting if anyone fights back at him, always silent. And every time he laughs, he just laughs, but nothing comes out. He's
Always
constantly it's really, really freaky and unnerving, and everything's done with facial expressions and body language.
Yeah.
All that's good. The gore is good. I like the kind of 80s grain they put over the top.
Yes.
The music
Yeah.
is really, really good.
Mm.
But none of that, especially for the second one, saves the movie for me. The plot is nonsensical. Like Biggie says, stuff happens, makes no sense. They tried to mix in some kind of fantasy
Elements,
element to it. The first one is a general normal slasher with the ending being slightly supernatural, and this one goes full on supernatural with fantasy. It does not need to be 2.5 hours long. Everything that this film is trying to do, you could have got all those death scenes and all that gore into a 90-minute film. There's parts where it just literally grinds to a halt, and you're watching these really terrible actors.
Yeah, they're not the best.
And it just needs a massive edit. I don't know why this is reviewing so well, other than the fact that it's got all this gore and it's kind of mean and outlandish.
It's got to be the
Outside of
gore,
that-
hasn't it? Because, Saw didn't really have much of a plot, did it? But people were just there for the gore.
They were quite short as well, weren't they? Like most gore porn films are 90 minutes.
They were
max,
really
and
fast
they can
paced,
just
you're right,
about
yeah.
kill it.
I think criticisms from the first movie was that there wasn't enough plot about the clown, why he does what he does, and all this kind of thing, and it still isn't
I
explained.
don't care.
Yeah, it's still not explained. So that they try to shove this sort of supernatural element to the story, but still not explain why that is relevant as well. So you're just left
Yeah,
with
exactly.
2 open-ended questions throughout the whole movie.
The stuff with I won't get into details, but the stuff regarding her dad not explained. Just this, and then that's it. It's like Biggie said, it just unless he's going to go into in the third film, nothing's explained. The first one didn't need to be explanation. I just took it as this is a murderous, homicidal clown.
Yeah,
there's no need for it. Jason is just a homicidal man, running around he's with a mask on. Michael Myers, he's just. There's no real kind of backstory to him. They're just evil people killing people. That's fine. That's just a slasher.
yeah.
But this one just, I don't get it. I just the gore is kind of fun and cool, but other
How
than that,
does
it's
it
just-
compare to Tusk?
I'd rather watch this.
Yeah, if you had recommended us to watch this, I would have been happy with that. I would have walked away with that, being okay.
I mean, they're still on par for me of both terrible films, but
Terribly good.
I'd
you'd
love
probably
to-
like Terrifier films,
Oh,
actually.
yeah, I think
I'd
she
love
would.
to see the third one of those clown films, but because you said he doesn't say a word. The first bit is the opening scene of him getting some McCain oven chips out the oven, burning his wrist. I'm well, you can't say anything. That would be epic.
Do you think the actor just doesn't have an equity card or whatever it is? You can be an extra as long as you don't say anything, but to have an equity card, you have to have an equity card to speak.
That a thing?
And he's just way cheaper. Yeah, in the UK it is.
Oh my god!
I don't know. He's only ever done these Terrifier.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
was
he's very
introduced in the first movie as a new actor. That's
Maybe he's
right.
got
Yeah.
a really funny voice.
And credit to him. I've seen him do interviews. He's done them in character where he doesn't say anything.
Maybe he's mute.
We're just
maybe
taking
he
the
is.
piss and he actually can't speak.
Oh,
Sorry, guy. No, I
But
think he's
yeah.
just got a funny voice.
So moving on from that, something I did really enjoy that I watched just this afternoon, which is The Good Nurse. This has just come out on Netflix. It's based on a true story. It stars Jessica Chastain and Eddie Redmayne as 2 nurses, one who suspects the other of being responsible for a series of patient deaths, and it's based on a true story. It's gripping, man. Really good. Really, really well acted. Both absolutely nail it for different reasons. I just was My wife and I were just gripped watching this from start to finish. I thought it was excellent.
Yeah, I keep seeing this advertised. I really want to see it. In fact, I almost did today as well. I wish I had now. But so yeah, you say it's based on a true story. When was it? When did it take place?
2009, I believe.
It's based on like they are technically. I know this is based on a real life thing, but I don't know who the killer is.
I got him by here, Charles Cullen.
That's it.
Like, yeah, like it's America's like most notorious serial killer.
Oh,
Basically, America's version of Harold Shipman.
right. Probably not the most notorious, but pretty bad.
Yeah, I don't know whether to reveal what it says at the end.
Maybe like he's like the one that's killed the most people.
Right. I want to say prolific, but that doesn't sound right.
It's alleged, I think. I won't say the figure, but what he kills in the movie, and then it says at the end that they've worked out that basically it could be a hell of a lot more, but obviously they've not maybe be able to prove it.
I think the worst thing when I watched it was the good nurse, who is Amy in the show. She makes this friendship with the killer, and it reminds me of the friendship that you get when a new person joins work. So you kind of take them under your wing, and then you get to know them. And she has this opinion of him that he's a good nurse. So when people come in and they're asking her, "Do you think this guy could be involved?" She's like, "It's not him. He's really, really lovely." And it reminds me of people that I worked with, and I was like, that'd be horrible. That'd be awful. That'd be horrible.
Yeah.
And I liked him as well. Watching it, I was like, he seems really nice.
Yeah. And like, I think even you mentioned it in the Discord that there's like a case that's obviously ongoing at the moment that kind of reflects this kind of situation, you know. And it's tough to watch knowing that people that work in healthcare potentially may have a dodgy background.
Yeah, Lucy Letby. It's awful.
Yeah,
really sad.
Yeah, I'd heard as well like the film is also a bit of a kind of commentary on the American health system as well. Again, like on how that kind of system and the way it's driven and the way it works just drives people to do things. And
I'll give you an example. She, Amy, that Nat's referring to, she goes for a check herself because she's got some health issues and she hasn't got health care, so she has to pay for it. She literally has something like a scan and a consultation. It's like $980 for that alone, without any treatment afterwards.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank God for the NHS, eh?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
We can break bones for free.
I am interested in watching this. Is it it's a film? Is it? It's not.
It's a film.
Show,
yeah, it's on Netflix
film,
now.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I'll add it to my watch list to because I am interested in seeing that one.
Yeah, really good performances all round.
Cool, great. Natty, what have you been up to?
Well, like Biggie, I watched The Good Nurse and thought it was epic. I highly recommend it. You probably need some sort of palate cleanser at the end, like a nice bake-off, a glass of sherry or something. You probably need a bit of like Paul Hollywood to get that off your chest. But
fortifying cup of tea.
Yeah, absolutely. But I've been playing Nippon Marathon. So this is a game developed by Onion Soup Interactive, which I think if you go on their like Twitter and stuff, I think it's just 2 people. The game is a multiplayer, so it's designed to be played in a party of people, up to 4 people. And you basically play as these wacky characters who run a marathon across Japan. So each race takes about probably 5 minutes, and it's absolutely balmy. So you can select characters such as Nishibori. So she's a narwhal, and she has a big, massive tusk on her head, but she's not a unicorn. She hates that. You can be Snoopy Maestro, which is a dog wearing a little jacket and his little tail sticking out the back. A guy dressed up as a lobster, or this really curvy guy called Zenbei, who's like 80 years old and wears a schoolgirl outfit and goes, whoa, like this. Every time he does something cool.
Whoa.
Yeah, do you know what? I'll put a picture up.
I'm still giggling that the fact that anyone that has to mention the word lobster has to do that.
I know.
Even though we all know what a lobster is, but we all naturally have to do that. So a lobster.
It's like if you say Zoidberg, Dr. Zoidberg, you can't do it too.
So since you said it was just 2 people, so I've looked up onion soup. There's actually 4 people.
Oh,
So
there you
you've
go.
got Andy, and wait for it. This is good. Andy Madden, who's the director development. It says ditched the university job to follow his indie game development dream. Loves gaming, both old and new. Has about 30 game designs in his head waiting to be made. The second person is Amy Maiden. So I don't know if it's a sister or partner. Director and community manager. Eco Warrior has been raising Pokemon since she was 10 years old. Is really a cat in disguise. Was once a barista, now spends time making gifts and managing social media. And then the 2 others, we've got Snoogaroo, dog. He sits beside Andy and Amy and helps them work by alerting them to enemies. And then we've got Mocha, the flower. So it's a development team of 4.
That actually makes a lot of sense. But it's absolutely wild. So we bought this game probably a good 3 years ago. It was like £5 in the PlayStation store, and every Sunday me and my mates get together, we have a games night, and we buy a game and we take it down and we play it. And we played a couple of really shit ones, and then this game came up and I really wanted it, and I didn't bring it up with anyone because I thought it was just a bit too me. So I left it, and then Mo said, oh, come on, just buy it. And it was like £5 or something like that in the PlayStation store. And you can get it on Nintendo Switch as well now. And so we bought it, and we haven't stopped playing it for 3 years. It's our go-to game on a Sunday. But like Mario Kart, where you can like pick up these little boxes and chuck like a banana or get a shell, on this one you have like a pineapple balloon that you can like float over people. You still chuck bananas behind. There's people carrying like wobbly fish. But you do like a whole tour of Japan. So you start off in Tokyo, and you go down. You catch a bullet train. It's fucking mental. It's crazy, absolutely mental.
Do they have the equivalent of a blue shell?
Yes, it's a watermelon.
Fuck it then.
What about that?
But it says the watermelon's attack who's in first place, but it never does because it's so fucking glitchy. It like goes and then like flies across the screen, and it usually hits yourself. So but I highly recommend it. It's absolutely fantastic.
It does sound
Really
good.
laugh.
I assume
That's,
you've played
on the
Overcooked.
Switch as well, so I think I'll get it for that.
Oh, it's epic. It's really good.
Have you played Overcooked?
Oh yeah, we've done all of them, and we've got on the
Yeah,
first Overcooked, we got
Great
snowed
games.
in. So we literally played it and got all the stars on every single one.
Yeah.
I was always the cat. So we always had our
Cracking game, that.
characters, and the second one, and all the extras. So yeah, we always play those ones. There's a couple of really good multiplayers out at the moment, like couch co-op, because we all play in the same room. We always go over each other's houses. So Overcooked, and another one is Lovers in a Dangerous Space Time. That's fantastic. You play as
Never
little like
heard that.
animals, and you've got to control a giant spaceship. So you will have different jobs on the space, exactly the same as Overcooked. But there's like fire going off, and there's aliens and all kinds of shit. I don't know why it's called Lovers in a Dangerous Space Time. I have no idea.
Oh, I played that. I know that one. Yes.
It was free. It was a
Yes.
free download, I think, at
It
some
was.
point on
Yeah.
PlayStation. It's amazing.
Yeah, I played that with my mates. It is good fun.
Yeah. it's
Oh,
good.
these are all on Switch, so I'm gonna get them because the kids love playing these kind of games together. We play like that,
Oh.
and moving out, they really like playing that.
Ah, love Moving Out. We've done that one. We've played that one, Moving Out.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's good.
so I'll definitely get these downloaded and see if they want to play them. So it looks alright.
It's very, very Japanese. So you can either have it with a Japanese commentator, so it's all in Japanese, and you have no idea what's happening, or you can have it with an English speaker, but he's still very Japanese. So some of the stuff he says, you're like,
I think it'd be funny to put it in Japanese. So it's like Takeshi's Castle.
Yeah, exactly.
yes,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
exactly
You have
like
no idea
Takeshi's
what's
Castle.
been said at all, but it's just they're getting so excited.
Like on the one bit, a woman descends from the sky called Weddy Jones. She's clearly Welsh, and she's got a jetpack on, and she asks you a random question. You got like click random buttons, a bit like what's that really weird Japanese when you have to smash a button really hard? What, washi washi bashi bishi bashi boshi or something? It's
Bishi
called.
Bashi. Bishi Bashi.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Just like that.
I thought all Welsh people travelled around on jetpacks anyway, though. So
Yeah.
You're
Asking
telling me that's
random
not true?
questions.
Apparently does. That's it.
Awesome.
That's literally what I've done.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm gonna download that. I'm gonna go and download it after this, so it's ready for this week.
We should play some on stream.
Yes, definitely. Candy, what about you?
I've done something that I've really enjoyed this week, and I've been watching Cabinet of Curiosities. So if you don't know what that is, it's the horror anthology series on Netflix by Guillermo del Toro. So 2 episodes of which are written by him, and then the rest directed by various filmmakers. And it's a sort of monster of the week thing, so it's a different story every time. There's 8 episodes in total. I've seen 6 so far. I don't think they weren't all released together. I think they were released in blocks of 2 or 3 over the last several days, I think it was. Anyway, they're all out now. But yeah, from what I've seen so far, 6 out of 8 of them, I've just absolutely loved it. And as a horror fan, not much phases me, but there have been some scenes in some of these episodes that I have actually struggled with, like just in terms of making you feel uncomfortable. I wouldn't say they're particularly gory, but Del Toro and other filmmakers, they sort of know how to get under your skin. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be like viscerally gross to just get you on edge. The second episode in particular, it just left me feeling like particularly itchy and claustrophobic and just yuck.
Yeah, I've watched 1 and 2 so far, so yeah, I've seen the second
It
one.
was the second one. It's just horrible, isn't it? So yeah, it's like I said, it's a monster of the week format, which I've always loved. The genres, while all kind of falling underneath the horror banner, they are pretty varied. So some of them adaptation of, in fact, 2 of them I think are adaptations of H.P. Lovecraft short stories. Some feature demons. You've got grave robbers, and my personal favourite one, which is directed by Anna Lily Amirpour. She directed A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, the horror classic, sort of cult classic. But that episode has got Dan Stevens selling her a skin cream through her TV, an evil skin cream.
Aren't they all?
Well, they all are. So
Because she's worth it.
God, absolutely. By the way, the reason I'm grabbing at the screen, there's a fly that
I thought you were doing some really weird ASMR thing to me. Then I was going.
No, I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to grudge it through YouTube. Don't worry. Another thing I really like about this series is that every single episode is introduced by Guillermo del Toro. So it's just like like the Hitchcock films,
Yeah.
where he kind of just shuffle on stage like "Good evening." Well, Guillermo del Toro does the same, but with a Spanish accent.
Go on,
So
have
I
a
just
go.
took. No, I will be cancelled. He's lovely as well, Guillermo del Toro. He's so adorable. He looks exactly like Dead Man from Death Stranding. So I just do a quick rundown of the episodes and the actors as well, because some of the actors that pop up are just like an absolute joy. So the first episode is Lot 36, and that's directed by Guillermo del Toro and written by del Toro and Regina Corrado. And that's got Tim Blake Nelson from Oh Brother Where Art Thou and Elpidia Carrillo from Predator. Graveyard Rats, which is the second one, which is the horrible one, is written by Vincenzo Natali and based on a short story by Henry Kuttner. The Autopsy, which is another kind of a cosmic horror almost, directed by David Pryor, stars F. Murray Abraham from of Mythic Quest fame. The next one, The Outside, another one of my favourites actually, was directed, as I mentioned previously, by Anna Lily Amirpour. And that's got Kate Micucci from Big Bang Theory and Dan Stevens from Downton Abbey, Beauty and the Beast and Eurovision. It's frightened Biggie, he's gone. The next one, Pickman's Model, which has the most horrific finale. It's directed by Keith Thomas, who he actually directed the 2022 version of Firestarter, so we won't hold that against him. But that one's based on an H.P. Lovecraft short story, and that's got Ben Barnes from Marvel's The Punisher and Crispin Glover as well, being super creepy. And then Dreams in the Witch House, which is one that I watched this afternoon, is another one based on H.P. Lovecraft, and it's directed by Catherine Hardwicke, who directed Twilight and Lords of Dogtown. And the main character in this one is actually played by Ron Weasley himself, Rupert Grint. And I have to say, I was actually I was really surprised. I was really surprised and impressed by his acting. I haven't seen him. I know he is still acting, but I haven't seen him in a lot since Harry Potter. And he absolutely nails like the American accent and everything. He's a proper adult now. I'm really proud of him. I think that like the one thing that I have seen him in before was he was playing Cheetah Chrome, and it was in a film about CBGB's, the New York nightclub that used to feature all the punk bands. Actually, he was pretty good in that as well, to be fair.
Why doesn't he do more then? So
I know, it's a shame. Maybe he's just really like, he probably doesn't need the money, does he? He just takes on the things that he wants
washing
to.
himself in notes, isn't he?
Oh, exactly, yeah. And
I think him and Daniel Radcliffe just do the weird, wonderful stuff now, because they just, like I said, they don't need the money, so they're just going, yeah, I'll just do that.
exactly,
I'll do that.
yeah, absolutely. Well, it's nice that they haven't actually tried to continue to chase the fame, because why would they need to? And we do get fun films like that from them. But yeah, no, the last two episodes I haven't seen yet, and they're called The Viewing, which is directed by Panos Cosmatos, and The Murmuring, directed by Jennifer Kent. And she directed The Babadook as well.
Ooh,
And that's got
I love
Essie
Babadook.
Davis and and that one's got Andrew Lincoln in it as well. So I'm looking forward to that one. But yeah, I can really recommend that for a bit of like Halloween spooky viewing. And although like by the time this episode comes out, we're slightly out of season. But never mind. But yeah, I will say it's not really for the faint of heart. It's not super gross, but there's going to be bits that just kind of get you on edge a little bit. But I really hope this gets renewed for another Halloween season in the future. There's something about Guillermo del Toro. His work is just, it's pretty unmistakable, isn't it? And it's something like, his work isn't always super gory or super graphic. And I think sometimes as well, it can be a bit cheesy, but he has all the most charming qualities of like the proper old horror directors and like the Hammer House of Horror type stuff. You can just absolutely tell that all the episodes has been touched by him, kind of thing, in terms of the look. And it's.
I was just going to say the same thing. I think that as long as he's involved, as further seasons hopefully get booked, then I think the quality is going to be there. I think if he ever steps away, then the quality potentially could drop. But I think if he's
I think that's
involved,
certainly why there's a lot of the actors are signing on purely because it's him directing. I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, really, really good, really fun.
Also, I'm really looking forward to seeing it. I just haven't had a chance to watch it this week because we've been away for a few days.
Yeah, well, but I mean, every episode's about an hour long, so it's not like you have to sit down and binge them.
And they work for that as well, don't they? Because it's really tight.
Yeah, perfect short story length.
Yeah, I'll definitely be catching up with that. With me and my wife will be watching that this week. But like I mentioned, I was away for a few days this week. We went down to London, took the kids down to London, and while we were there, I just want to quickly touch on a couple of things we did while we were there, which were absolutely amazing. The first off being a Jurassic World Expo that's taking place at the Excel Centre. Now, I booked this because I needed to kill time in the morning until we went to the theatre in the afternoon. I just had a look to see what was happening. Oh, look, there's Jurassic World things going on. I didn't know what this was. I generally thought this was just going to be a go there and there's kind of some models and pictures from this, scene sets. And I didn't know anything about it. I just thought, oh, that'll be interesting. Got there and it was absolutely incredible. Like, I did not expect it to be that good or do what it was doing. You basically, I don't want to spoil too much of it or what happens in there, but you go into a room which is inside this ferry and you get this, it all looks like you're inside this ferry and you get this introduction video welcoming you to the island and the screens all around you, so it looks like you're on a boat, like there's water in the screens and everything, and you do this instructional video and you open up the door to the thing and it comes and there's a huge Jurassic, like the Jurassic World gates.
Yeah.
You're inside this jungle. There's huge Jurassic World gates. There's a Brachiosaurus right in front of you, and then you proceed to walk through different areas. You go into the laboratory where they've got eggs and baby dinosaurs. There's actors there playing laboratory assistants and scientists. there's park rangers, and they're all acting, they're all in character and speak to you, and there's all these animatronic dinosaurs and sets, and it blew my mind because some of the stuff they do with some of the big dinosaurs was just amazing.
How many kids
Oh,
were
wow.
crying?
Not many. I think I saw one kid cry, and Callie, my daughter, got scared by the thing right at the end. But it's just, yeah, it looks amazing. If you're not going to go and you want to see some pictures, I'll share some pictures with you and some videos, because I don't really want to show people. If
Yeah.
you think, oh, that sounds good, I want to go there, because I want people to be blown away like I was when you walk through it. But yeah, it was such a good experience. I'm so glad we went to that.
Can you pretend to be a dinosaur whisperer as well?
No, but there's a bit with Blue the dinosaur, put it that way. Blue the raptor, yeah. And a lot of this. Chris Pratt can't stop him. But yeah, we did that in the morning, because in the afternoon we went to go see the stage show of my neighbour Totoro. This is the Studio Ghibli classic, and it's been brought to the stage by its original composer Joe Hisashi and the playwright Tom Morton Smith. And again, I just booked this because, like a Studio Ghibli film coming to the stage, and I just thought, it can't be crap. Like, there's no way that a studio like that would license off one of their biggest characters and films if whoever's had this idea is doing a half-assed version. And it wasn't half-assed. This was incredible. All of us absolutely loved it. The kids loved it. I loved it. Kate loved it. We just was blown away by the stage, the music, the puppetry. All the puppets are done by Jim Henson's. From them, the first reveal of Totoro is just like, when it's revealed, the whole audience were just gasping and just like, oh, like, it's just, even down to the way they do the soot sprites. They have stage hands in black, and they're on these kind of like long poles and like going everything. So you kind of have to suspend your disbelief, and the actors the stage hands are kind of the soot sprites as well. So you have the proper ones, but then the stage hands kind of act as them as well. And yeah, the puppetry in it, the music, the comedy, they threw a few bits of comedy in there as well, often with the stage hands, and when they all of a sudden just changed into actual speaking parts. The cat bus was just, again, absolutely incredible. The way they showed the cat bus doing its journey over the towns and the cities, going to the hospital, how they did May being lost in the second half of the film. They just, honestly, it's mind blowing. If you just go see it, if you have any interest in trying to go see it, if you can get tickets are limited, and ones that are left are probably really expensive. But yeah, it was so good.
I'm so jealous that you got to see this, because I kept meaning to, and I just, for whatever reason, it slipped my mind to actually ever get tickets. And I know it's happening sort of. It's not on for that long either, is it? I think it's only until Christmas.
Yeah, I hope that it gets a long. I hope that it kind of gets picked up and maybe put on the stage full time.
Yeah.
But you could go see this, like it'll be like The Lion King or those kind of shows, that it'll just be a fixture.
Has it been on tour?
Within the country.
Is London the first place it's been, or is it?
Do you know what? I honestly don't know.
Yeah. You would think it would go all over, wouldn't you?
Yeah. All the actors, all the production are all either Japanese or Japanese descent, the English actors. They're all like the Japanese. So that was really good, because authenticity on that side. I'm just blown away by it, and how they did Totoro. Like, I just couldn't see how they would do this.
Yeah.
And then when you watch it, you just go, and that's just incredible. Honestly, it's
I'm
so
looking at
good.
your face, and your face is like a kid. It's like you're like beaming. I'm so jealous.
I was, honestly. I spent most of the time with a smile on my face, because it was that good. Like the two actors that play Mei and Satsuki, like they were just incredible. Like considering they had to, they're grown women having to play a 4 and a 10-year-old. They did such a good job of conveying children that age.
Yeah, I really want to get my daughter into Ghibli movies. I just want to get her to stay focused and watch the movies for what they are. It's difficult at
It's not Grave of the
5, whatever it
Fireflies.
is, isn't it?
Don't watch that one.
Yeah, not
not
that
No.
one.
Don't let anyone
No,
watch
that
that.
one doesn't exist.
But my youngest daughter, she was obsessed with this. When she first watched it, it was like every day she wanted to watch this, to the point where she actually wore out my DVD. It's like, it's knackered. She's got it out the case and put it in like so many times. It's so scratched. And then obviously, what do you watch when you get home the next day? Of course, we had to watch the film.
Oh.
So then we sat down and watched the film as well.
I love that all the Ghibli films are on Netflix as well now, I think, aren't they?
Yeah.
But
Yes.
I'm just looking, it's until the 21st of January, unless it gets extended.
Ooh.
Yeah. I've heard as well that in Japan they did a Spirited Away stage show.
Oh, wow.
Man.
I would love to see that.
Yeah.
It's only Japanese though, so you can actually get it on Hulu, I think, if you can get onto that. I don't know. I presume it's probably subtitled, so I'm going to try and get that. I know it's not the same, but I'd like to see it anyway.
I think that, I mean, if you've seen the film, you kind of know what's going on. It's more a case of seeing the spectacle of the show, isn't it, with that kind of thing?
Yeah. The only downside to the show was that the kids behind us were just really fucking annoying, to the point that even my kids, who are 9 and 6, got fed up with them. We're just like, they won't shut up. Like, they just keep commenting on everybody. My daughter was just like my 9-year-old, like she was just getting so wound up because she knows, like she's been to the cinema loads and that she'll whisper things to me if she wants to ask.
Oh.
And I know they're kids, but their parents just didn't even try to stop them talking.
But at least you've had a chance to publicly call them out on a podcast now. So
Yeah.
that must help.
Yeah, they were just so annoying. And then one of the kids at one point just goes, "I recognise this music from somewhere. I fucking wonder where. I wonder where." It's like, come on, kid, come on. I shouldn't badmouth kids, but fuck me, they were annoying.
I love it if you've gone full Stig on them.
Amelia kept turning around and looking at him, trying to give him like the obvious like glare of "shut up." And at one point, their mum just like got out some pack of biscuits or crisps or something in the middle, and they just sat there eating crisps. I'm like,
I can't stand that when it's a live
Stop,
show. Like
stop.
it's actors.
yeah.
You're gonna just.
I know we were up in the bloody gods, but you know what I mean. Even so, like people around you weren't. Yeah, I took a sneaky pic at the end. Like I didn't not throughout any of the show, but like right at the end, I just like I have to get a picture of Totoro. Like I can't go away and not get a picture of him.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was great. Honestly, absolutely loved it. I also watched a film called Barbarian this week.
It's on my list.
I'll quickly go through this. I won't go into too much depth on it because to do that would be to spoil it too much, and it's really difficult to review this one without spoiling it. All I will say is just go in without reading anything, without watching the trailer, just knowing that this is a really good horror film. And for me, who struggles to connect with a lot of horror films, despite the fact that I watch so many of them, like modern horrors I struggle with all the time, this is one of the best horrors I've seen in a long time.
Oh.
The first half especially is just proper gripping and tense. The story is it stars Georgina Campbell, Bill Skarsgård, and Justin Long, and it's directed by Zach Krieger. And the story is that Tess Marshall books a home in Detroit, an Airbnb, to stay at because she's got a job interview the next day. She turns up in the middle of the night, stormy night. She can't see her surroundings. She just goes to the house and she discovers that someone else has already booked into there. Man called Keith, played by Bill Skarsgård, and she is initially unnerved by him, as she would be, who is this random man in this house that's meant to be staying in. He is overcompensating to make himself not seem creepy. As you would if you're a woman on your own in that situation. I'm in a house with a man I don't know, and he understands how a a woman would feel. So he's trying to make her feel comfortable, and with that, obviously, makes it more uncomfortable. And that's all I'm going to say. Or I'm not going to go into anything other than it starts to get weird. It starts to get tense. It starts to get really horrific. And there is a bit of a tonal shift halfway through, which I think the film actually really needed. And it then starts to kind of have a bit of some social commentary on women and how women are perceived and treated in Hollywood, and treated and perceived by the police at times, and that kind of thing. But there's a bit about half hour to 40 minutes in this film where I was just feeling proper dread and tense. Like it's just this creeping sensation of horror, and there's a bit that proper made me shit myself. Proper jumped. And yes, characters go from kind of being smart to stupid, but it's a horror film. If they were all smart, then it'd be a boring horror film.
Yeah.
So you kind of just have to, forget about that. But yeah, really, really good. Really well performed by all involved, and definitely recommend just watch this film don't go in, don't read anything, don't watch anything.
What can you watch it on?
So, it's out of the cinema.
I'll watch that. Sounds awesome.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it now.
Yeah,
it's really, really good. Right, that's it. That's what we've been up to. So we're going to move into our main feature. Our main feature this week is we're going to talk, as this is 80s month. We're in a new month now. We've moved on from horror. We're now into the 80s. And we thought the best way to kick off the 80s would be to smash into it and talk about our favourite action films of the 80s. Biggie, why don't you start us off?
Well, you can have your Die Hard, your Terminator, Lethal Weapon, The Karate Kid. The 80s basically spoilt us for so many incredible and memorable movies. You can have Van Damme, made a name for himself with Never Retreat, Never Surrender, Bloodsport. Famous for launching himself into the air, spinning back kicks, all in slow-mo. But they weren't the real action stars. I'll give you an action star. Jackie Chan is the definition of action star. He spent most of the 70s in martial art flicks that pretty much aped the popular Shaw Brothers kung fu flicks at the time. It wasn't until he joined Golden Harvest that his career took off. And after a sad failing in the American box office, Jackie Chan returned back to Hong Kong and started being more elaborate with his stunts. For me, Police Story is possibly one of the greatest action movies of all time. It was voted the 4th best action movie of all time in 2016 when Time Out polled 50 film critics, directors, actors and stunt actors to list their films. It's a plot is basically set around Jackie playing, excuse me, a sort of Royal Hong Kong police force were doing a sort of an undercover sting to arrest this crime lord named Chu. Inspector Kevin, as he's named over in the West. Real action name, that, Kevin. Is part of the operation, along with the other undercover officers stationed in the shantytown. The shootout here leads to an incredible car chase through a shantytown. The stunt work for this is just insane. And it has a famous car chase through the shantytown, pretty much taking out all the buildings as it goes through. He finally gets out the vehicle, starts a chase on foot, where his nemesis, Chu, is currently driving a bus, and he chases it on foot, manages to get onto the bus, and ends up swinging around it, navigating the bus with literally only an umbrella. Kevin finally arrests Chu, but gets reprimanded about how the operation got out of hand. The police then present Kevin as a model police officer because he obviously managed to arrest Chu. Following the arrest, they put Chu's secretary up as a witness, Selena, and Kevin's assigned to protect her. After a couple of pranks that go wrong during this, and Kevin gets set up, the case falls apart. Another attempt on Selena's life by Chu, because they're concerned about what she knows. Kevin intervenes as a fellow officer turns up, named Man. He reveals that he's working for Chu. Man is suddenly shot dead by Chu's men with Kevin's gun, and Kevin is framed for murder. Kevin and Selena finally join forces to download evidence of Shu's shady dealings from one of the offices in a shopping mall. You literally, at the end of this movie, have 9 minutes of just full-on action. It's just insane. Stunt after stunt after stunt. If you've ever seen Jackie Chan in any of his movies, I mean, he's incredible stuntman, incredible martial artist, but it's just full 9 minutes. Yeah, and choreographer. He not only directed the movie, he did his stunts, but he's just absolutely insane. He's even got his own stuntman team. And one of the stunts...
I really need to watch his early stuff.
You
Like,
must.
really need to do
You
it.
have to. I mean, there's a particular stunt in this that Jackie sets up where he basically falls 4 floors, sliding down a centre pole in the shopping mall, which is decorated with electric bulbs all around it. One of his stuntmen actually gave him a big hug and a Buddhist prayer paper, which he stuffed in Jackie's trousers before performing the stunt. Unfortunately, Jackie received second-degree burns as he slid down the pole, landed with a back injury and dislocated his pelvis. Jackie Chan is famous for obviously doing all of his own stunts in all of his movies. He's pretty much broken literally almost every bone in his body and has almost killed himself many times. This movie said it's one of the greatest 1980s action films. It's also one of the most 1980s action films. Saying the cop on the edge cliche and with a synthesizer music alone. The entire film has the mentality of a master showman who wants to dazzle in every moment, big or small. A stunt near the end, which was the one in the mall, gets repeated at full length 3 times from 3 different angles. This would seem like a display of narcissism if it wasn't for the fact that it's one of the greatest stunts in the history of movies. And it was almost called Glass Story by the stunt team because the amount of sugar glass that gets smashed in this mall with all the windows in the shopping mall is just absolutely insane. He kicks people at the top of escalators and they go bouncing down. I mean, the amount of bruises his stunt team must have received during this movie is insane. The plot is nothing special. It is a cop on the edge and all that kind of thing. But for me, it's one of Jackie's greatest, earliest movies in the 80s. And I've just got a list of just movies that you should check out, Stig, as well as anybody else if you haven't seen them. Drunken Master 1 and 2, Who Am I? Project A 1 and 2, Miracles. He's done Police Story 2 and 3. There's Crime Story. When he went over to the States, the quality of Jackie's movies changed a little bit. They got a bit watered down with trying to, appeal to the US market. But all of Jackie's movies pretty much in the 80s are just incredible. And he always shows outtakes at the end of his movies where all the stunts have gone wrong.
Yeah.
But I have seen Police Story so many times. And I just enjoy it. It's so, so good. And there's a particular fight sequence where Jackie is... in movies where they only throw one person at somebody to attack and then he fights another person, we're here, like, they all take turns diving in and trying to smack him. And he does this incredible kick where he jumps in the air, does like a high spinning kick. As he lands on the floor, he does a floor sweep and then jumps up and does another kick and takes 3 people out in one move. It's just insane. He is so, so good at what he does. And
I think he always has been criminally underrated, hasn't he? Like, especially when he, like you said, when he went to the States. And I think it was a case of, like, he was taking on slightly more light-hearted roles. So, people saw him as a comedy actor just as much as, a stuntman. And it's such a shame because, like you said, his stunts and choreography and the way he uses props as well. Like, I don't think there's any other martial artist that uses props like he does.
Whether it's ladders, a school playground, for fuck's sake, where he's diving in and out of all... a jacket, you name it. Anything he picks up that he can use, he will use. And yeah, any of his movies from the 80s are incredible, but Police Story will always be up there as one of his finest, I think. I just love Jackie Chan, and I think he's incredible. And I don't think we'll ever see anyone of his ilk ever again. I think that we've got lots of different, The Raid is maybe the closest you kind of get to something like that. With, I forgot the guy's name now, the actor in that, but he's probably
Iko Uwas.
Yeah, I think he's about as close as you get to someone like Jackie Chan nowadays, because I just feel like he's a one-off. There'll probably never be anyone quite like him.
I think he has the charisma of Jackie Chan, though.
Yeah, I mean, because Jackie has a lot of comedy in his movies, and the humour is definitely sort of from the Asian side. Some of it you kind of cringe at, but it was entertaining for their audiences, and that's what he was aiming for. But yeah, I mean, Jackie definitely has a likeable, funny face as well. He's always he's not the greatest looking person. He's got a massive big nose. He's always said that, but it works for when he's performing, and he's also very good as when he's fighting, with the expressions as well on his face of shock, fear, etc. When everything's happening so fast. I don't know if you ever saw an interview with him and Jonathan Ross, and they were chatting about Jonathan Ross has been a big fan of his, and they were just sitting side by side in the studio having a chat, and he was talking about how fast he fights, and Jackie Chan just did this kind of like 10 punches in a row in front of Jonathan Ross, and you could see Jonathan Ross trying to follow the punches, just like just couldn't react in any way or form. They were so fast. But yeah, I love his movies. And Police Story came out in 1985. It's just smack bang in the middle of one of the greatest action movies, and that's mine.
Great, definitely one I need to catch up on. Yeah, I love that. Natty, what about you? What about you?
So, I had a bit of trouble with this because I only found out about this an hour ago. Well, an hour before we started, ish. And like I said, I was face deep in Danishes. So I quickly Googled 1980s action films, and I was like, shit, I know all these.
Pick one, just pick one.
So I was like, right, Predator. Haven't seen it all the way through, seen parts. What else was coming up? Like Rambo? Like, nope. Like, I know the basic story. Nope. Kept going through Alien. I was like, it's not really action. And then I was like, I could fall back on Star Wars because I've watched all of them and loved all the originals and grown up with them. But I was like, that's a bit of a, I don't know, I can't really settle on that. It's more sci-fi as well. So I have really fond memories of sitting on the sofa, probably about 4 or 5 years old. So probably mid-90s. And my dad's favourite films are the Lethal Weapon films. So
yes.
obviously,
I'm not allowed to very...
So I'm going to need some help, Biggie, because a lot of the Lethal Weapon films, I was way too young to watch. So my dad skipped past a lot of the bits that were probably appropriate for, I think it was a 15, maybe. But so forgive me if I get any of this wrong. Please correct me in stepping, because I'm going to need a lot of help here. So Lethal Weapon. 1987, so it stars Mel Gibson as Riggs and Danny Glover as Rog, and basically they're cops that get buddied together after Riggs tries to retire from the police force after the death of his wife. And the psychiatrist basically says that he is suicidal, but the police force say that he's faking it, so sticking back into the force with Roger. And they really don't like each other in the beginning, as all these cop buddy sort of shows go. And then they start getting along, and yeah, it's really, really good because I quite enjoy the humour of it, being sort of 5, 6 years old, like bits where, for example, Riggs is eating dog biscuits, or the bit where the one guy falls on the ice and thinks he's dying, but actually it's because he slipped on ice. Things like that. So yeah, I quite enjoy Lethal Weapon because it gives me really nice memories of being sat with my dad and kind of looking at him and being like, Daddy just said a really bad word. He's like, shh, don't tell your mother. So I spent the majority of basically the noughties watching. That's why I've probably only seen them in parts, like all the Rudy bits, the boobies, the swear words, and the gory bits were all cut out. So I remember all these like really happy little bits. Like the bit when there's a really, really funny scene where they go into, I think it's a dentist, and they're all...
that's the fourth one, yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I absolutely love that bit, probably because being a kid, the rest of the film went straight over my head. And that bit was just absolutely hilarious, where they're all high on nos trying to get this dentist to talk. and they're all just having a good old giggle. It's amazing. What would you say, Brad Biggie? Please help me out.
I'm a massive fan of these. I've watched them again so many times, and the quality of them does drop as they go along. But the relationship between Riggs and Murtaugh is just so good. And it like you said, there were a lot of buddy sort of cop stuff that became popular, but that relationship just was really sold well by the two actors. I assume they got on well enough in real life, because if they didn't, then they really sold it on the screen. They were just so good together. And the action, the plots all around it were absolutely fine, but the action was great. But if you really don't remember them that well because of that, then go back and watch them in full.
I really need to.
And you will really appreciate just how good they are. And
I'll probably
their
understand
relationship
the jokes.
continues. Yeah, the relationship continues throughout all the movies. And yeah, it's just so good. I just love it. And particularly 1 and 2 were probably most people's favourites. Joe Pesci arrives in 2, I think it is. No, is it 1 or 2?
3.
Is it
I
3
think
he
he
comes in?
3.
Yeah, he turns up in 3, and he's funny for the first 10 minutes, then does get quite annoying, but Riggs is really nasty to him. But yeah, they're really good. I think the 4th one really struggled, and it was almost turning into more of a comedy than an action movie by that point. I think they were really sort of pushing the comedy side of it. Because all
being quite
4
sad
movies
as
were
well.
by Richard Donner. Yeah, I mean, I think Riggs' portrayal in the first movie is incredible.
Yeah.
He really nails that sort of, again, cop on the edge, really popular. And he really sells that sort of, he doesn't really want to be alive anymore. He's so reckless. And when that's the sort of play on Murtaugh, who's really sort of close to retiring, that he's just literally, he's too old for this shit. He can't deal with this guy being so reckless. But then, because of that relationship, he kind of starts to change Riggs a little bit. And then Riggs starts to learn a bit from Murtaugh and vice versa. They learn from each other. And yeah, it's just really well done. If it wasn't for that relationship, and the TV series completely proves this about how poor it can turn out if you haven't got the right people in the roles. And again, I don't think you can reboot it. I don't think it's a movie that could ever be remade again. I think it's just one of those things where they're going to be classics for all time and should stay that way. They should never be tampered with because they're as good as they are.
Yeah, you just don't get the like the TV series. You just don't get the like chemistry between the two, do you?
Not at all.
I didn't even know there was a TV series.
Yeah,
there isn't.
No, not anymore. Yeah. I just looked up. Sorry, Leo does arrive in number 2. I just remembered it is because he takes him to the South African embassy.
Yeah.
When they go to the embassy,
yes.
Yeah, Leo's with him then. Yes, he does come in a second. I always find it quite funny how Murtaugh's always like, I'm too old for this shit, and he's only like 41. He's only like 40, 41. It's not even that old.
Yeah, but I feel like that all the time though.
But yeah, again, that's it. That just reminded me of Murtaugh. Riggs is becomes like almost an addition to their family, and they become his family that he lost. So he becomes really close. That whole relationship. But yeah, I love those movies, man. So fucking good.
I distinctly remember a bit when he stood on the top of a building. And there's a guy that's going to jump.
That's it. Do you really want to jump? Do
you?
He just grabs him and jumps off, doesn't he? The best line in it though is diplomatic immunity.
Yeah.
It's just been revoked. Even like when we were watching that with Kate and that happens, and he just said out loud, she was just like, yeah. Like it was one of those ones where that was class.
I think they do that on Family Guy, don't they? I think Peter says it in like a completely, it's like a moment that doesn't deserve it at all, and he's like, okay.
Oh yeah.
It's such a good killer line that it's just been revoked.
And again, because of that popularity of those movies, people try to copy it, and it just doesn't work. There's a lot of people have tried to do it. Have you ever seen Loaded Weapon, which is the spoof?
Yeah.
Sounds like a porno.
You should check that out. Samuel L. Jackson, believe it or not, plays the Murtaugh. I can't even say his name.
Murtaugh, yeah, it's Samuel Jackson and Emilio Estevez in it.
Yeah,
I remember the butt in the movie scene, and we watched that. They showed that to us at a play scheme as well. So we were like under 6 and just arse walking around.
I did watch that when I was a lot younger, and I really love some of the jokes in that. I'm getting off a bit of a tangent here, but there's the reason why Samuel L. Jackson's character can't use a gun is, and it has PTSD, and it cuts to his partner being held up at gunpoint by a mime, and the mime's just got the finger out like that, and she's like, shoot him, and Samuel Jackson's like shaking because he doesn't know what to do. Like it's just a mime with a fake gun.
He just reminded me of the famous toilet scene in 2, where Murtaugh's sitting on the toilet, and the relationship between them, because Riggs goes to try and see what he can do. And that's a really touching scene, because apart from the jokes that they drop with each other, trying to calm him down and everything, but you can see the way that they look at each other and talk to each other, like their relationship has got to that point where they realise that Roger could actually die here. And they sell that scene so well about Riggs telling everybody get out the room, and Roger doesn't want anyone to see him like that and all that. Yeah, it's just really, really quite touching, really well done.
Yeah, I love them. You know, I think they're great. Despite the people, one of them that's in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the films themselves are just, I really, really like. I mean, I even have a soft spot for 3 and 4. You know, 4 has its moments.
Yeah, even Jet Li, a weird choice, but not.
Yeah, there's no way I'm believing that Mel Gibson's beating up Jet Li. Yeah, no, Lethal Weapon's great choice. But Biggie's probably really glad that you brought that, because he's in his element. He's banned from it.
I haven't watched it for years, and it was the only one I was like, you know what, I can actually talk about that a little bit, just because I have lovely memories of it.
Well, yeah, you've got that too, which is fantastic. Just go watch them again. You'll still have those feelings watching it, remembering those times when you get to those scenes, but you'll enjoy the rest of the movie as well.
I'll watch the rest and be like, you made me watch what? This is fucking shit.
You'll be banned from the podcast if you come back with that big Biggie whatever let you back on. Awesome. Candy, what have you brought?
I brought Top Gun.
Oh.
I know I've spoken about Top Gun before. I know. I droned on about it. I droned on about the original when I brought the sequel, and I brought Maverick to the Nexus. But even now, it's still one of just my absolute favourite feel-good films. And like Natty, I'm sure my parents regret ever letting me watch it, because it was just the one that just got repeated over and over again several times a week. My best friend and I actually used to get our dining room chairs and sit one in front of the other with our bike helmets on, and like we pretend to be in the cockpit and everything, like just reciting this film to one another. And nobody wanted to be Goose. No one wanted to be Goose. Yeah, Goose was the one who had to fuck off home early. But yeah, no, it was. So Top Gun was released in '86, and it features iconic roles from Tom Cruise, obviously, as Maverick, Anthony Edwards as Anthony Edwards as Goose, Kelly McGillis as Charlie, and Val Kilmer as Iceman, and it was directed by the late Tony Scott. And the story itself is actually based on an article in California Magazine that described the day-to-day operations of the U.S. Naval Air Station at Miramar in San Diego. And in fact, I think it was either the author or it was the publisher of the article that tried to sue Top Gun, new Top Gun, over the rights to use the concept or something. It was a really weak argument in terms of trying to sue them. But anyway, they went for it. But yeah, looking back at it now, it really does have a massive cheese factor. But I mean, that's pretty much what the 80s were about, I think, anyway. So it has an absolutely banging soundtrack. You can't listen to Danger Zone by Kenny Loggins without getting pumped. And
it's so great. I bashed that on like as soon as I came out of Maverick. That was the first song I put on in the car.
I was so happy that it was actually in Maverick as well. Yeah. Like straight off the bat, it was on the intro. You just knew you were home. Take My Breath Away as well. Good bit of 80s cheese, pinnacle cheese, in fact.
It was.
But yeah, I think every scene it just makes you want to kind of holler fuck yeah and high five your best friend, doesn't it? Before like stripping down and greasing up and playing straight man's volleyball.
Very straight man.
Yeah.
There was also a problematic blossoming romance, and I only realised this because I was watching it again earlier. There's one scene where Maverick follows Charlie into the women's bathroom to try and pass. Yeah, I know, like completely violating her privacy. Until she kind of tells him actually like she outranks him. She's a higher rank to him. She was one of his instructors. But yeah, the joking aside, I think the action sequences, like the ones featuring the fighter jets, to this day are incredible. Like no CGI was used, mainly because it was probably still fairly janky at the time. But the fights between the F-14 Tomcats and the Russian jets were actually shot over a naval air station. And to capture the scenes, cameras were mounted on top of the fighter jets and also on top of a Learjet, so you could get like a third kind of person view. But the shots of the fighter jets landing on the aircraft carrier was the actual USS Enterprise, which had been decommissioned at the time. But it was the film itself was so like America, fuck yeah, that the US Navy started putting up recruitment booths outside showings of the films, and they saw something like a 500% increase in enlistments that year. It's absolutely bonkers.
Stiggy was one of them.
Yeah, it's a cruise ship. But yeah, I think it's just the right film that kind of came at the right time because it was far enough away from the Vietnam War that war was fun again. But yeah, I just love Top Gun. I can't fault it at all, and the new one as well. I just love that too.
Yeah, I watched Top Gun before I went to see Maverick the night before because I hadn't seen it for fucking years, and yeah, I still enjoyed it. Wife and I were kind of like, it actually still holds up.
It is very cheesy, but it's fun. It's just fun action.
It is, yeah. It's very, very 80s,
yeah,
isn't it? Very 80s, but yeah, fun. And the sequel is just incredible. Absolutely loved that.
Yes.
I am going to bring a cheesy action film starring one Arnold Schwarzenegger, because I don't think we could have 80s action week without bringing up the king of 80s action, Mr. Schwarzenegger. I want to talk about 1985's Commando. Commando, it's a film about retired special forces colonel whose daughter is kidnapped and he is told that he has to assassinate a political rival to get her back, and he only has a certain amount of time to do this in. This is just pure machismo. Like, the whole thing is just Arnold walking around with his muscles bulging throughout the whole thing, killing men left, right, and center with full of cheesy lines, and it's just fucking great. I absolutely love it. It is one of those films where if it's just started, if it was on TV and it's just started, I'm watching it. If it's an hour in and I've missed the start, I'm watching the rest. Like, I just absolutely love Commando, and it's got its tongue very firmly in its cheek. It knows exactly what it's doing. It doesn't try and portray to be anything serious. It knows that this is just a big, huge action hero, and he's gonna just blast his way through men.
Wasn't this the start of sort of Schwarzenegger's and Stallone's sort of rivalry about how they could outdo explosions and how many people they could kill in each movie? It was just kind of all started to rank up.
Because I was going to mention that Commando actually has the bloodiest death total in any action film with 81 kills. Schwarzenegger manages to kill 81 men in this in a variety of different ways, especially when he gets to the compound. But yeah, the film obviously starts with him and Jenny. They're all like kind of just having a good beaut time as father and daughter, you know, like they're feeding the deers, and she's putting ice cream on his nose. It's all funny, and he's wandering around straight away with logs on his shoulders to show how hard he is and how strong he is.
To his daughter.
Yeah. And then you get then his house gets attacked by men, and it's just from the get-go, like, he rolls into that room, the guy's like, "Oh, we've got your daughter, so you're gonna do what we say, right?" And he's like, "Wrong," and just shoots him. And it's all capped off by the fact that the person who is kind of leading the men and in charge of all this is one of his ex special forces buddies, Bennett, played by Vernon Wells, who is meant to be Arnie's rival in this film, but looks more like a fat Freddie Mercury in chainmail.
He does.
Like, he is not imposing in the slightest when you stand him next to Arnie. It's like, he's perfectly cartoonish and a brilliant villain, but I just wish they'd have actually got someone a bit more Arnie stature. Like Bill Duke. He fights Bill Duke halfway through the film, and they have this massive fight in a motel. Bill Duke is perfectly capable of standing up to Arnie. They are roughly the same size. They are two big, huge, muscular men. You have more time believing that he would put up a good fight. Yet, Arnie eats green berets for breakfast and just kills him. The Sully is this little dipshit of one of the little henchmen who is an absolute perv and an absolute bastard to Cindy. When he gets killed, it's brilliant. Like, Arnie says, "I'm going to kill you last." He's like, "Remember when I told you I was going to kill you last? I lied." Drops him off the cliff. Cindy's like, "Where is it? Where's Sully?" He's like, "I let him go." It's like, it's just full of those proper cheesy one-liners. And it's all capped off at the end with this big, huge... When eventually he gets to the compound where his daughter's being held, and he gets off the boat in his little Speedos, and he gets all covered in camouflage. He's all tooled up with all these guns, and he looks fucking awesome. And he just goes through this compound and just starts blowing buildings up, shooting men, kills one guy with a circular saw through the head. Pretty sure he stabs a rake in another man, like a garden fork or something, out of the shed in another man. It just gets more and more insane with these kills. And then right at the end, he has this big fight with Bennett where he's beating up Bennett, and then all of a sudden Bennett gets kind of electrocuted and gets a surge of power and manages to come back at Arnie. and Bennett could kill Matrix off. He could kill him off with a gun, but Arnie manages to talk him around to have a knife fight, and they have a knife fight, and then they have this big fight, and then eventually he's killed by Arnie pulling a pipe off the wall, throwing it through Bennett's stomach. And as he says that, a lot of steam comes out of this pipe, and he finishes it with, "Let off some steam, Bennett." Like, it's just...
He is the king of the one-liners, isn't he, Arnie?
Yes.
Absolutely love this film. Like, the deaths, the one-liners, it's Arnie in his element. He's just having an absolute blast, and he looks great doing it. If you have never seen the Commando rap, please go on YouTube and look it up, because someone really does a rap. They put the whole film into like his 5-minute rap where they rap along what's going on. And there's one line in it where it just gets me every time. And it's like, his muscles look awesome as he kills everyone. Like, zooms in on his muscles, just going, like, just slow motion of his muscles rippling as he's shooting this machine gun. It's so good. But yeah, Commando it's just pure 80s. I absolutely love it. Some people would say it's one of those so bad it's good films, but I don't think that's the case.
I don't think that existed in the 80s, did it? It was just people actually genuinely liked it. It's only looking back now that it's bad.
I don't think it's not even bad. It's great. I love it.
I've never even heard of this film.
Oh no! I mean, I know we're a bit spoilery with how that goes, but it
makes me want to watch it more. And he's in his Speedos at the end.
It's the most manliest man film ever that ever did man.
It is. Like, Arnie does so much in this film. Like, one point he picks up a telephone box rips it off the wall and throws it with a man inside. He just flips a car over, like, with his bare hands. He rips a door off a car.
The thing is, he was probably so jacked in the 80s that he probably could have done all these things.
Do you know what? There should have been like a sitcom or a reality TV show where Arnie's just like walking around trying to do day-to-day things, but he's so strong he can't actually do anything normally. So like, he's going to pick up his kid from school and tries to open the car door and accidentally rips it off. Or like,
tries to eat a Danish and crushes it in his hand.
Why am I so strong? His muscles are a curse.
Sits on the toilet and just breaks.
I can't shoot anywhere.
Oh, please. I implore anyone who's not watched Commando to it. It's 90 minutes long, and it's just pure joy throughout the whole thing. There's not a moment wasted. It's just, it moves along at such a perfect pace. It never lets up. It's relentless throughout the whole thing. It's so good, and it just ends with him like this proper 80s style rock song as well.
80s power ballad. That should be a subject in itself.
It is a proper power ballad, like, of a like, yeah, fuck yeah song to end the film on. Yeah, Commando for me. So, right, Biggie, what have our listeners been saying? What's their favourite action film from the 80s?
Well, the mailbag is bulging just like Arnie's muscles. We've had Lee Davis write in. He said the 80s is the decade for action movies. And there's so many greats that it's hard to pick one. So I'll pick two. Commando, funny enough, and Mad Max, The Road Warrior. Why these two movies, though? It's quite simple. Vernon Wells is two of the best villain performances ever. Camp Perfection. I think he meant perfection, but who knows?
Maybe he did get a correction.
I think so. I think he might be right.
He's so camp in Commando.
He really is. He's great in Mad Max as well. Another great movie. Zap to the Past came in next. I'll throw a couple of John Carpenter classics in there. First, Big Trouble in Little China. Why? Because it's all in the reflexes. That's such a great movie.
I like the guy who gets so angry he explodes.
It's such a... Have you not... Oh, you haven't seen this either, have you?
No.
It's
we're going to have to put together a list for you.
Yeah, it's such a bizarre movie. It's so weird, but it works for some reason. It's such a great movie. And second, They Live. Best fight scene ever. Yeah, that fight scene between Rowdy Piper and... I've forgotten the other guy now.
Keith David.
Yes, Keith David, yeah.
See, They Live was going to be my choice originally. I was like, no, I can't miss up a chance to just riff on Commando. Like, I could like literally recite the whole of Commando, like from start to finish. But They Live is a really great film, and that fight scene, it's 6 minutes of them just beating the shit out of each other.
Yeah,
in
real
an
proper
alley.
brutal fight.
Yeah, like proper dick punches as well. Like he's just proper fucking ramming his fist into his dick at one point.
And he also went on to mention, First Blood, which is a much better film than Rambo, First Blood Part 2, which I totally agree. Next up, we've got Xenos. And he said, well, I've checked my list of films. I remember having seen, and as far as I can tell, have watched literally no films that came out in the 80s. So I'm going to cheat by mentioning the most 80s film to not be released in the 80s, which is Kung Fury. Have you guys seen this?
Yeah.
So it was only available on YouTube, right?
It is, yeah, at the moment. I think it just didn't get digitized, so somebody just did a crummy recording. But yeah, that's another crazy one.
It's a half hour long and available for free on YouTube. Go and watch it. It's hilarious. It does contain one homophobic slur, but the character who uses it is shot over the phone by Hitler less than a minute later. And I'm not giving you context for that sentence either. I said watch the film.
I imagine, is that a bit like a Kung Fu Hustle then? That one? Similar? Or is
I haven't seen it. I know of it, but I've never seen it.
We'll all watch it now. It's
Yeah.
only half hour.
Nimrod Hicks is next. He says, does Full Metal Jacket count as action? If so, that's my pick. Kubrickian genius of a movie. And I agree. That's one of my favourite Vietnam movies ever, that. Robotic Monkey next. You could pick any year in the 80s and have a full podcast worth of action films to talk about, surely. I remember watching The Last Starfighter as a kid. Stuff like that almost always used to be on TV on a Sunday afternoon. Inner Space, BMX Bandits, Kroll. I could list of loads. There's also a few franchises. Alien, RoboCop, Die Hard, never heard of it. Beverly Hills Cop, Superman, Indiana Jones, and the similar copies of it. Top Gun. I'm sure there are so many others that I've not mentioned. Yeah, he's pretty much covered most of it, I think.
Yes,
BMX
loads in
Bandits.
there.
Yeah, I
About
could have
that.
chosen Indiana Jones. I've seen that one.
Yeah.
You're dead.
See, I always think when I say 80s action, I do think Lethal Weapon, Commando,
Yeah.
like that. Like Indiana Jones is an action film, but it's like an adventure film as well. So it never, it's like Star Wars. It never crosses my mind that it's actually an action film in there.
I always think like 80s fashion as well. You gotta have a bit of the 80s fashion in 80s action films.
Yeah, definitely.
And Rick sports a beautiful mullet, so...
Yeah. They're beautiful.
Jamie Y next. The Princess Bride has a little bit of everything, and the writing is on point. The Three Amigos is so quotable, it makes me laugh every time. Back to the Future, who doesn't want to meet their parents when they were teenagers? The chemistry between the characters of Clue is off the charts, and maybe it could be worth with a different mix of actors, but this one was just perfect.
I think she's maybe just put 80s films in there.
Yeah, because I've also seen,
I mean,
I've seen
it
that
works.
one. I could have had that one.
Yeah.
then is
Back to the Future might work in a sense, but Clue's definitely not an action film.
No. Adam Golightly next. Evening, ME. Hope all is well. And so for me, the first thing that came to mind for 80s action for me was Commando. Classic Arnie, cheesy lines, full of action, and not to mention the steel drums used for the music in this film was superb.
I forgot about the steel drums.
I don't remember
the
that.
steel drums. Yeah. Like in between scenes, it's like like on the steel drums. It's the soundtrack, so it's brilliant.
He follows this up with, now in other news, I'd like to formally request to throw fake PNGs into the fire, please.
Yes!
These deceiving little bastards have done my nutting this week. Oh, and can we please throw WEBP formats in whilst we're at it too?
Yeah, agreed.
I've seen there's a strong hashtag free candy movement starting to take shape also. If people would like to trade off the PNGs and WEBPs for Miss Machine's freedom,
Well, see, as a patron, you're allowed to throw something into the fire in the Patreon section. So we'll allow PNGs to go in. I'm not so sure that Candy's allowed to come back out for her.
I'm in the second
terrible
circle
pizza
of fire,
opinions.
though. At least raise me up to the first circle of fire. It's a miscarriage of justice. All I did was not eat my pizza crust. I don't see how that's more annoying than James Gordon.
Natty, where do you stand on the pizza crust handles?
As in, if you eat them or you don't eat them.
Yeah.
You don't eat them, you
So-
leave them.
So we've got a pub by us called the
Think
Bush.
carefully here, by the way.
I am. That's why I'm explaining my answer. So we got a pub by us
Okay.
called the Bush, and it's epic. And they do like proper wood-fired oven pizza on a proper stone, and all the rest of it. And they're all made fresh. All the dough's made fresh. When you get the crust, you've got these like you've probably had Stokes. Have you had Stokes ketchup with Stokes barbecue sauce? Do you have Stokes?
No.
Is that a Welsh thing? Oh fuck!
Must
Well,
be.
it's the most amazing sauce you can get, and it comes in these little sachets. You dip your crust in it, and you fucking eat them. You eat them. You eat your
Yeah.
crust.
God.
Good
You-
choice.
I just, do I really deserve to be in the fire, though?
Yes.
It must have
Well,
been
we can't. Unfortunately, with Oodles and Gadget being off this week, we can't vote you out. So you're in there for another week at least.
No, it's so hot.
To fight your corner next week when they're back. Back to the feedback.
Speaking of which, some bloke called Gadget has written in. Evening, everyone. Sorry I couldn't make it for the recording, but my choice this week was going to be Tron. One of the defining science fiction films of the 80s. It sets a new standard for visual effects, visual storytelling, and computer bullshittery. But people don't remember that it's actually a banging action film. From the disc battles to the iconic light cycle sequence, this film is stuffed with brilliant and creative action sequences. Those light cycle, that scene was just, superb.
Yeah.
It's truly an iconic film that most definitely, absolutely did not have a sequel. There was that fan film a few years ago, but it was utter horse shite. There's only one Tron film.
Did you ever? This is slightly changing the subject. Did you ever play the? It was Kingdom Hearts 3. It was in. There was an actual Tron level. It's really good. Can
Yeah.
you imagine Tron in
really
Kingdom
pretty.
Hearts?
I remember
You
the
got- you
arcade
had
machine
all the
Tron,
heads
but I wasn't very good at it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Game was shit. But
And-
that
Game
was
was
cool.
And finally, ex-host Oodles. Hello there. Hope you're having a nice, well-paced and not overly long recording of this week's podcast without me. In regards to my personal favourite 80s action films, I'm pretty basic bitch. Die Hard, Total Recall, First Blood Part 2, Red Heat and Commando are amongst my favourites. However, one particular film is an action film I can actually call my favourite of its ilk, and that's Escape from New York. A film about one badass alpha infiltrating a hostile environment to save someone he couldn't give a shit about. Snake Plissken is perhaps the most underrated action star of the era, and I feel bad not mentioning him. I swear to God, Snake, I thought you were dead. Yeah, you and everybody else. Love you all, and keep keeping the show at a tight 1 hour and 30 minutes.
Yeah, about that.
Yikes.
Yeah, I love Escape from New York. We don't talk about the sequel, but
No, that's terrible. It's got a good ending, but
yeah.
the rest of the film's a bit shit.
That's it.
Excellent. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone who wrote in, and thank you to you, SuperNattyCat, for joining us last minute.
Oh, bless you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You'll be able to find SuperNattyCat on Smash That Glass, which will be out the coming Monday.
On Monday. Yep. Yeah.
Woo!
What's
I'm looking
that?
forward to it.
Do tell us more.
Yes, so it's a 6-part spin-off from Modern Escapism. Well, it might carry on, I don't know, but it's a celebration of all things women getting shit done.
Oh, God.
Entertainment, pop culture, and more. So you're not invited, Biggie.
Didn't want to be anyway.
And yeah, we start on Monday. 6-part series. You'll be able to find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere you can find your podcast. You can find out more about us on modernescapism.co.uk, and also we're going to be part of the Biggie Bundle as well. So you'll get an unedited, probably X-rated version a couple of days without adverts earlier than they're due to air to the general public.
Thank you very much. I am really looking forward to hearing this. And because I get access to the Biggie Bundle, I can listen to it early. And if you want to get the Biggie Bundle, then you can get that at patreon.com/Modern Escapism. On there, you'll get that. You'll get a Deep Dive Lounge early. You'll get access to spoiler casts early. And you'll get extended edition of this episode, which we're about to go and do now. So we'll have to say goodbye to everyone who's not a patron. And if you are, you can be sexual tyrannosauruses, just like me, in the Patreon section. Next week, we are going to be doing the best of the 80s. So we are going to open this to everything. So we want to know what your favourite things that come out of the 80s were. We're talking movies, music, TV, games, fashion, style, the Walkman, the mixtape, everything that the 80s had to offer. We want to know what it is that you loved the most. So we'll see you next week for that. But for now, everyone who isn't a patron, we have to say goodbye. And for the patrons, we'll meet you in the green room. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.